but I walked into that building and I could feel it just telling me, please buy me and make me into something beautiful again. And it was just such a cool experience. And then my husband came down the next day and he's like, we're doing this, because
you're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And we do a variety of different types of shows on this channel, one of which is our Venue Owner series. And it is by far my favorite series that we have on this channel. We get to talk to real venue owners, people who are building venues, running venues, people who have operated venues for a long time, and really kind of understanding more about their process, about the trials, travails that they've gone through, as well as some of the wins and the successes that they've had. And so it's been really, really fun being able to connect with those folks. And today we have a venue owner that we're going to be talking to. But before we jump in, I just want to say really quick, if you are first time listening to us, thank you so much for being here. Consider subscribing, maybe after you've listened and if you like the show. And if you are a returner, if you would consider subscribing if you're not already, and then maybe even sharing this with someone that you think would find value in it. All right, let's get to the show. Today, I am so honored to welcome to the show Danielle Smith from the Vault Venue in Livingston, Texas. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I am excited to chat with you. You are in a very interesting place, I think, with your venue, and I'm excited for our audience to hear the process that you're going through. And I love these types of episodes because you're kind of in the beginning phases, and I think it's going to be really fun. I've been earmarking a couple of the folks who we've been talking to who are at the beginning phases, because I'd like to have you back on in a year or two to just kind of say, okay, started there, now where are you at? What are the things that you're experiencing as you're going through the life cycle? So let's jump into your story. Can you give me a little bit of a background on you, maybe kind of like personally before you got into the venue space, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And I would love to come back in a year and share our success story. I'm really excited to be a part of that as well. So a little bit about us is we are from Houston, Texas, and we got married in 2014. My husband and I did. And this has been a huge dream of ours since we got married. We planned every detail of our wedding. We chose our own vendors. We're kind of a part of that generation that the big weddings and the whole planning, big ideal of the getting out of the church into venue process started. So we are very familiar with that process of, planning your own wedding and finding and connecting you with vendors. So this, like I said, has been a dream of ours since 2014. We were originally going to actually build on family property that we have in Livingston, Texas. We talked about it in 2015 whenever we got married, and we kind of took a break from it because it was a little overwhelming at first, right? Like trying to get the finances in order. And, we were just freshly married. We were just starting off in our careers and, saving for that to make sure that we could actually truly make our vision come to life. And I'm kind of glad that we waited, I'll be honest with you, because in the Houston area and Texas in general, the barn style is very, very popular, right? So we were able to find something and restore it and bring something back to our community, which was very big to us. So that's kind of where our dream started. But a little bit more about us is I'm actually a former school counselor and a current school therapist. And my husband is a process operator in the chemical plants. If you're familiar with Texas, which you shared with me earlier that you are, that we are a big petrochemical industry. So my husband, works in that. And then our Gigi, who is also a part of our family-owned business, she is a realtor, and she's the one that kind of found the space that we're currently renovating into the Vault Venue today. So that's kind of a little bit about us and kind of where our dream came from. And we're making it a reality now. My husband and I like to say, we really we're in our 30s, and we really sacrificed our 20s and saved a lot of money to where we would be able to invest in our dream, just like we're doing today.
That is so cool and so inspiring to hear that you're now kind of finally at that part that you're making some of these things a reality.
Yeah.
Were you always entrepreneurial, like, to start your own business, and on top of that, like do something as capital intensive as starting a venue and construction and all of that? There's a lot of risk there. Have you always been entrepreneurial?
So yes, my husband and I have actually been in this mindset for quite some time. It's probably been 6 or 7 years. And actually we love to flip homes. So we are investing in real estate. We know that is a great route to go. And we actually have started flipping homes for a living. We flipped our first property. Actually, unfortunately, we did have that major freeze in Texas, and we had, a lot of people reach out about flooded homes, and we were able to grasp that opportunity, and we were able to, start a income, business with that, with flipping some homes and that. And then also, I am in private practice, so I do own my own counseling firm, right? I have a supervisor too I work under as well. So I independently get to practice. So that entrepreneurship has always been there. Like I said, I worked in the school setting for 10 years, which actually was very valuable to my growth and success as well, because I was a school counselor, but alongside I was actually an athletic coach and a teacher as well. So being able to have those structured skills really prepared me for entrepreneurship and being organized and learning communication skills, learning how to adapt to different personalities and how to work with different clientele. So I really thank the education system for being able to provide me that, but also lead me to want to go into entrepreneurship even more.
I think that's so cool because it also sounds like you're probably very good at solving problems, right? And figuring out, issues that oftentimes may stem, through emotions, right? We're coming from emotions in that counselor role. And that's what this industry is. I mean, you're managing a lot of emotions. You're involved in people's large purchase decisions on this very big special day. That's incredible. Tell me about the venue now. So, 2014, 2015, when did you start looking for the property, I guess, or when did you actually find the property?
Okay, it's kind of crazy. I feel like it kind of fell into our lap. So if you haven't been to Livingston, Texas lately, it is booming and growing. Like Texas, ever since COVID happened, people have been migrating to Texas, not only for jobs, but, just for freedom, a little bit of, of everything that Texas has to offer. So Livingston, Texas has always been super small, and it's about 75 miles outside, northeast of Houston, Texas. And there's just a lot of amazing families that are coming in and investing in our downtown. So the property is actually in downtown Livingston, Texas, which, if you didn't know, Livingston has a casino now on their Indian reservation. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that has contributed to a lot of growth and a lot of families investing and renovating the downtown space. And so a few families have started doing that. And we were actually visiting one of the flower shops that's across the street from our venue. And we were walking and shopping downtown, and my mother-in-law was like, I think this building's about to go up for sale. And I was like, really? It was, the beautiful bank look. And I was like, that would be really cool. Like, maybe we could check it out whenever, it goes up for sale. And of course, everybody's kind of tight knit downtown. They usually don't post on HAR. If you're familiar with HAR, it's our, Houston realtor area, how people sell their products or, their housing or their commercials deals online, right? So our agent listed online. And so I actually happen to I look for properties all the time, right? Like, we're looking for properties to invest in and, look into flipping and all that. And like, I happened to just look, I was like, I'm just going to look today. And the first day it went on the market, I found it. And so my mother-in-law calls me, she's our realtor, and she's like, Danielle, you need to get down here immediately and just see the space. I really think you're going to love it. And I think we could really do something special with it. And I was like, okay, great. Let me clear my schedule and I'll be down as soon as I can get there. Literally got there the next day, toured the building. And I mean, it needed a lot of work, but I walked into that building and I could feel it just telling me, please buy me and make me into something beautiful again. And it was just such a cool experience. And then my husband came down the next day and he's like, we're doing this, because it's got that Midwestern kind of style venue feel. That's not so traditional as the big barn, big open feel, big open style concept that you have really down here in Texas. It's more kind of like Chicago kind of theme, downtown kind of vibes, because it is a 2-story building. And so whenever we found it, we were really like, we could really do this, because we went to a wedding venue actually in Chicago for one of our best friends' weddings. And I'm going to tell you, I love the space and fell in love with it. And I was like, we could totally do this with this building. And we have been able to, thankfully.
I'm curious, what went through your mind when there was, because I hear a transition happening, I guess, 2014, 2015, you got married, right? And then you originally were thinking about doing a barn venue on the family property, a downtown venue in an old bank is a very different style. So what went through your mind as far as kind of the transition between saying this would work to saying, okay, we're going to do something more urban?
Really looking at your competitors. I feel like it was copy and paste. Everybody has been doing the same thing, right? Just in different locations, which is not a bad thing, right? I think it's actually a positive thing. So to me, I really wanted to bring something back to life and bring something different and a little more edgy, right? And there's not a lot of that in our area, unless you're going to go to downtown Houston and you're going to spend $15,000 a night to rent a space to where you can drive, an hour and 20 minutes outside of Houston and you can still get the glitz and glam that you're looking for from our space. So to me, that was the biggest transition of to be able to recognize that styles are changing. And, we do live in Houston, which is one of the diverse populations in the state of Texas and in, the United States. So my thought too was like, if I stay with just a barn style, I'm not addressing to all my clients' needs, to where if I can get a venue that fits all types of styles and all my clients' needs, I'm going to be more successful in the outcome. In my business plan is how I envisioned it.
That's such an incredible perspective. You're totally right. I mean, you and I know, but anyone who's listening or watching who is not familiar with Texas, right. I mean, Houston, it's such a melting pot. And I think Texas as well in the past, 3 to 5 years especially, has really seen so much growth. People are coming from certainly California, but other parts of the country as well. Yeah, it's funny. I was born and raised there, lived in Texas for like 15, 16 years, and then moved to California. Yeah. So when I come back, people are like, oh, you're from California. I'm like, no, I'm not from California.
You have to explain yourself.
Yeah, they're like, kinda, because I'm 30 now, so there's been about the same time frame. But okay, so let's talk about the space. You found it. How long from when you found it to when you bought it? What was that time frame like?
So we found the property in January of 2021, and then we actually ended up purchasing it March 16th of 2021. So it was actually a pretty quick process. I mean, the biggest thing for us was, the funding, right? We already knew how we were going to fund it. We really wanted to get an SBA loan. That was our number one goal. But unfortunately, after COVID, SBA was like very fearful of event centers. So they were very limited on that. And then we were able to get a conventional business loan through a business bank pretty easily. And it's been a very smooth process ever since. So it really took about, almost 3 months, I guess, 2.5 months to close on the property and officially be ours. And then it took probably the longest process, I will say, for us wasn't purchasing the building. That was kind of the easy part, but actually getting to make sure that it was structurally sound to support what we wanted to. And that was the scary thing, is we had to take a big risk on knowing that we're purchasing a property and we can't demo it to see if it's structurally sound until we physically own the building. So that was a very, risk that we were taking and investing our money in. And luckily it turned out to be a great experience for us. But I would say it took probably to structurally analyze it after we got in there and demoed it. It took about 18 to 20 weeks to make sure that it was physically sound to, to hold everybody and structurally hold. And we were able to open up all the spaces upstairs that we wanted to, because it was built in 1916. And it didn't start operations, until the 1920s. So it's a very old building. And my husband and I joke too, like, if you're going to buy a building, you better buy an old bank building, because they are made of steel, and they made it back in the day where robbers couldn't come in and steal, like on horseback. You think about all those crazy things. Like if you go look on my website, you can actually see pictures of horses and people riding when the bank was built way back in the day. So it's kind of cool that the history and stuff that goes into it with, renovating this old building. But that was definitely the longest challenge, was getting it structurally sound, getting it drafted to make sure that we could get it exactly how we wanted. And our engineer was good with it. Our drafter was good with it. And we weren't even really fully able to full demo and actually get to the renovation until about October.
Wow. Danielle, can you go back a little bit, and can you take me through more of the funding process that you went through as you were buying the venue?
Okay, so the funding, like I said, we went through a business conventional loan. So what we did is we put some of our money towards the loan, and then we were able to get it funded through the business bank. Like I said, the SBA process was pretty hard for us, just because after COVID's restrictions literally lifted that September, August. 2020, we're buying a big wedding venue right in 2021. So they were just kind of like, no, we're not going to fund it. It's too much risk. What if we shut down again? All those different things. So we went to that bank first, and then we tried to do local, which with the smaller banks, it's kind of hard, right, to fund, because to them it is a big risk, and Livingston is a small community. So then, like I said, I was able to talk to actually my supervisor, my counseling supervisor. She owns the building that I work in, and she was like, hey, go through this bank. They've been really great at funding small businesses. They believe in small businesses. And I called, his name was Ross, and it was a great experience actually for us, because he was from Livingston, Texas. And he worked, we got our loan in, the Houston area. And he was like, oh my God, I have a lake house out there. I actually know exactly what building you're buying. He's like, I am on board. I am going to sell this, because he's like, I know downtown is growing. I know that y'all can make this building so amazing and bring it back up to what it needs to be. And he got the job done, and, pitched it, and we ended up getting our loan, and it's been, a great experience ever since.
Danielle, one thing that and I'm so curious about the next question. I'm going to ask you about permitting here. But one thing I'm hearing, and I think for anyone listening to this or watching on YouTube, getting people on board with your vision, which is very much kind of what you did. Like, you found your people who were excited. Ross obviously knew, like he was from Livingston. He knew the building. You kind of eliminate some of the roadblocks and some of the difficulties, because you're working with people that are excited about what you're doing, not people that are like throwing up roadblocks for you.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge believer in all of that, right? And I was so grateful for Ross, and I'm a huge believer too. When you look for your contractor, find the contractor that you vibe with too, because I'm going to tell you, like, I have been super blessed with my contractor who is currently renovating our building, because our personalities are the same, and he gets my vision, right? Because you're going to have people that are going to say, and I love that you brought up this question, because you're going to have people even in the drafting stage or the banking stage, they're going to question what you're doing, right? And they want to know all the details, and then they're going to give you their input on it too, of how you should do things. And the best advice I could give to someone is stand your ground on your vision and really sell your vision with confidence, because at the end of the day, you're the one that is funding this project and bringing it to life for your clients to enjoy. And find those people you vibe with. And like I said, that bank partnership was a strong, not only a business relationship, but it was confident in my decision that I was going with the right bank. And same thing with my contractor. Whenever I met my contractor, I'm like, oh my God, we are going to vibe, like, you're going to understand me. You're going to advocate for me. You're going to listen to me. And I feel like that is so important whenever you're going to business with someone, not necessarily business with someone, but you're going to be in this project for possibly up to a year, right? So, or even longer. So you got to make sure that, the people that you are working with believe in you and in your vision as well.
I think there's also a powerful lesson there that applies to the next stage of business, which is vendors, like picking your vendors. And depending on what you're going to do and offer there at the venue, you've got to pick vendors that are aligned with your vision, who are going to support the venue, because oftentimes guests don't realize that the DJ is not associated with the venue or catering or whatever.
Right. And that was a big thing for us too. I am a big person I love to advocate for other small businesses. Okay. So that's why whenever you look at we're like a blank canvas vendor person, like venue, right? So we would like to partner with as many vendors as possible, because I feel like I'm supporting you as a small business, and you're coming in and supporting me. So if I created just a package only, I am no longer supporting small businesses, in that small mindset of how I look at it. So, and you're right. And finding those partnerships with those vendors that you do trust is huge. And I've been very grateful that, we have been a part of like bridal networking groups, to where that was my goal for the first year, was to really get our name out there and build partnerships with people. Because we are new to the industry, and people come in and are like, who are you? You've never been here before. Like, what are you doing? Right. And so really building that confidence with them and trust that, like, hey, even though we've never been in the industry before, we are here to learn, we are here to grow, and we are here to partner with you. Like, you're a small business yourself. And that's why I truly like being open policy to vendors and building those collaborative relationships, because I do feel like it's important to support us all in small business.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, walk me through how you went through selecting the contractors and the drafts people and some of the different, like, did you put out, was it kind of your personal network? Was it word of mouth? Was it an ad you put online? Like, did you go on Facebook and say, hey, local community, I need somebody? How did you find them?
It's kind of crazy. My mother-in-law is a little socialite. Okay, I love her. She's got the best personality and she is so full of energy. She knows everybody in Livingston, right? So really her connections and her strong networking abilities really helped us find our contractor today. We had a set of contractors come out first. We really, really loved them. And, it just didn't work out for our timing. And we still talk to them and I would refer them out to anybody, right? Great people. And then she actually went to church with our current contractor and we just vibed. And I was like, you get what I want. And like I said, just that personal connection was a big deal. And he grew up in the area. So if you're really familiar with small town, right? So it's really good to have someone who knows how the city works, how they do permitting, how they do everything. And like, just those connections are so important. And our contractor had that, and that was really big to us. And it has been a very smooth process having him because he can say, hey, I need this permit done quickly. And it's done within hours or even the next day, right? Wow. To where Houston, it's a little different. It's like, you got to wait a couple of months or whatever, but that was our big thing. And then he linked us to other contractors within the area that have been great to work with as well. So we've really tried to keep it local with a lot of Livingston, Polk County contractors. Unfortunately, with some things like windows and like our doors and stuff like that, we did have to vendor out more into Houston. Just because Livingston didn't have that, right? There was not that. So if anyone's listening and we need window people or door people, they need them in Livingston. So they're looking for a small business opportunity.
Support small business. I love it.
Exactly. So that was kind of, like our contractor had all those connections and he, got us with a drafter, electrician, everything that we've needed so far, he's been able to provide for us. And he's actually a very skilled tradesman himself. So he's been able to do some of the work for us as well to save us a little bit of money on some of the areas that were more expensive.
You mentioned permitting several times. We got to get into it now. Talk to me. So you're in the city, not Polk County as a whole. Have you heard differences in kind of the ease of getting permits, whether you're in city or you have to more reach out to the county, or what has your experience been like getting permits?
So it's been actually pretty easy. Like I said, it's more city-based in downtown Livingston. So you don't go through the county, you go straight through Livingston. And it's kind of funny. I'll tell you a funny story. We were making a video one day and I posted a video and we hadn't got a permit yet, right? And then I posted it and then, it got kind of to the city and they're like, wait, you can't post that video yet. You don't have a permit. And I'm like, well, I need my permit. I got it within a couple of hours, right? So sometimes you got to ruffle a little feather every now and then, but not bad, right? So, but for the most part, it's been a super easy transition with permitting. Like I said, my contractor goes to the city. It's pretty quick and we get the job done, exactly in the timeline that we need it to be. So it's been a very positive experience. And like I said, usually the city's on your side. The city's looking for growth, right? And like I said, with Livingston, they're excited we're coming in. They're excited our downtown is changing. And they actually offer like a mini grant program. So they'll actually, it's not a lot, but they fund you some funding for some of your infrastructure, your plumbing, electrical. They'll give you a little bit of slum of a grant money because they do want you to come in and renovate and make it nice again. So that has also been a very nice thing that our Main Street has done for us as well.
I so love hearing that, and it's encouraging because I think anyone listening, if you're from California, you know that everything you just said in California is not true. like the city is not necessarily on your side. You don't get anything within a couple of hours. But that's so cool and inspiring to hear because you're totally right, and I think that's how things should be done. Like the city, they want growth. Right? They should want growth at least. And so that's very cool. So then permitting process, did you have to, because was it currently permitted as a bank? Did you have to like change the permit or just pull a permit because none existed?
So it's kind of crazy. So it was a lawyer's office. So, before it was a bank, it was a lawyer's office. And then after the lawyer retired, he was in there. Correct me, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it was like 30 something, maybe even longer than that. He was in that building. And then he sold it to, it's kind of funny. My mother-in-law has this thing about cousins. So it's a cousin in our family that actually owned it. Like, I don't even, third, fourth, or fifth cousin. I don't know. It's a funny story if you ask her, but so we actually, he bought it and he was going to renovate it into like apartment spaces, office spaces. And that was his vision for it. So it was really a residential property kind of slash commercial, how it was listed. So then whenever we purchased it, we had to purchase it. We had to invent it back into a commercial building. So yeah. So it didn't have a lot of the commercial coding was not in there. So we've had to literally, that was another big thing. We had to, make sure we were ADA compliant with the building, make sure we were up to code with everything. And some of it was not. So that we had to go back to the commercial grade when it kind of was in the mix of both.
Totally. Can you give me a sense of where you're at in the construction process, when you expect to open? And then I have a couple more questions about like construction and everything you're doing now before we move into some of the actual like wedding stuff.
Absolutely. So I am so excited to say that we are about 6 to 8 weeks out. Like we're almost done. We're completed. So we are looking at a grand opening date of May 5th. So we'll have an open house May 6th. I'm about to announce it. So if it's not, it's here. It's May 6th. So it's going to happen then. We're going to leave all of April just in case we have some of those like floater things and like cleaning and getting the venue ready. But we're supposed to be ready and running by April, like mid-April. Our first wedding's May 20th. So we're super excited about that. We had a bride that fell in love with us almost a year ago at the bridal extravaganza last July, and she's followed our whole process. And they've seen it from like whenever it was still like the bones of demo, and she trusted us, and they're getting married May 20th. So they saw the vision and they're ready to roll. So yeah, so we're in the home stretch of everything. Like I am so excited to hear those words.
That is a huge,
almost done.
Huge congratulations. That's amazing. Well, and I want to talk about that in just a second, but before I want to wrap up kind of some of this construction conversation side of things. And also I want to ask, and I want to start doing this more on the podcast. If you're listening or watching and you've got questions that you feel like I should be asking as part of this process, because we've talked to a couple of venue owners, right? We've talked to folks that are in the space, they're doing things, but if you're listening to this and you're, 6 months before where you're at right now, Danielle, if there are other questions, I'd love to hear those. So put them in the comments, whatever you need to do to get them over to me, because I want to make sure that we're addressing some of the questions that come up if there are things that we're not addressing. So were there any surprise charges or surprise things that you really, because you said you didn't really know if the building was even like structurally capable until you got in and you actually owned it. So there's a bit of risk there. But like once you got in, was there something that was like, oh my gosh, like we're going to have to spend an extra $50,000 that we didn't think? Was there anything big like that?
So what's crazy with flipping homes? I had a really good, my budget was very on point with a lot of things. The only things that I had no experience with was like fire suppressor, fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems, and elevator, right? So we have to put an elevator in our building because we're 2 stories and to be ADA compliant. So obviously that was a huge chunk, and I budgeted it pretty fair, but it was slightly over, right? So, but the water fire suppressor system has been a whole nother ball game. And I actually heard that other guy, I forget what venue it was, but he was talking about it. He's like, we're waiting, but we're installing everything, but we're doing it. And that has definitely been one for the budget that definitely was way over my budget that I planned for. But if I could give anybody advice, go ahead and add about 10% to your budget of what you've created for yourself, just for we had an incident where we had to replace, I think it was 45 wooden trusses upstairs, and some of the rotten wood that was between the trusses, the wood between the floors, or the jousts, not trusses, I'm sorry. But so kind of prepare for, you may have this budget in mind, but also be able to flex that 10% to 15%, even 20, because you're going to see some, spike in, we're in a recession right now, with COVID, things were expensive and in pricing increase where things are starting to come down. So kind of just when you play with your budget a little bit, think about what could go wrong, right? And so for us, there really wasn't anything big, structurally. Oh my God, we were so lucky. Those metal beams that are throughout our building saved us, right? And that's why I joke, if you're going to buy an old building and renovate that, is from the early 1900s, find one that is structurally sound, because if not, it is going to be it's gonna break your pockets. I'll be honest with you. But for the most part, we were very fortunate that we didn't have to do a lot of that structural piece because it saved us a ton of money. But I would just say increase it by 10%. At the minimum, and just know that you are going to have some hiccups here now and then. And like I said, the elevator was the most expensive thing, and the fire sprinkler system and alarm system was as well. So those were the two that kind of threw our budget off a little bit, but for the most part, we were right on track with almost everything.
Would you be willing to share with us your budget for venue renovation?
I would say for this bit, let me think. So it was about, over $500,000.
Okay. Awesome.
So we got it pretty fair, I feel like, but we're around in that range.
Okay, very cool. I think that's helpful. I obviously want to be sensitive to however much you want to share, but I think it's helpful for people as they're thinking like, what is a budget? What is 10%? And I know it's going to be different throughout the country. If you're in Louisiana or Texas or California, so there's.
You have to look at the space too. Like when you renovate your home, it's pricey, right? A lot of people start renovating their homes and they don't realize it is a lot of money to renovate, right? So you just kind of have to put it in perspective whenever you're flipping a bigger building, it's going to be more cost effective because you do have to put in those things to code and be at that commercial grade.
That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Yeah. Let's transition a little bit. Let's talk about kind of like weddings, packages. I think it's incredible that you booked that couple a year ago, and now you said May 20th, right? So we're like 2 months, 3 months away, something like that. When did you book your first wedding? Like assuming that May 20th is your opening or your first wedding, how long ago was that first wedding booked?
So we actually started really marketing. We attended our first bridal show, which has been very successful for us in July. And we had another couple, which actually makes me really excited. That it was a Livingston couple. They were our first couple to book in November. She came to the space. She's an educator, kind of has a similar story to me, like a coach. And I was just so excited. And they just fell in love with the space. And it made me happy to know that we had a Livingston couple be the first to actually book. Like how amazing in the history of our space that we had someone local that was like, I want this now. I'm going to do it. I trust you and I trust the process. And so November was kind of when we started to get hot, like when you could start seeing changes in our building whenever I would post things and update. And it was still scary, right? Because it's really a big demo process until you get to I joke with my contractor all the time. I call it the never ending demo, right? So you have so much demo before you get to the fun stuff. And, she trusted that process and was like, no, I totally see it. I mean, she came and looked at it whenever the floors, we just had the Jolstas and we had to replace rotten wood. And she was like, I love this. I can totally see it. I didn't spend my money on renderings because I really thought that we were going to be done a lot faster. Like I was projecting renovation to be about, 3 to 5 months, right? So I wasn't going to spend the extra thousands of dollars on rendering. I was going to do the whole YouTube thing because I actually had a friend reach out to me and she was like, oh my God, I loved watching you flip homes on your Instagram. Can you please share your story? I really want to follow your process. It's like, oh my God, what a great idea. We'll do it that way, right? So, when you put stuff out there, it's still kind of scary to whenever you're marketing in that aspect, right? But as long as you have someone who can clearly walk into the room and say, oh my God, I can see it, and you present it well, they're going to book with you.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And so many things are going on in my head right now. So the first thing is I love that you did YouTube. Because I've seen some of those videos on the site, and if you're listening to this right now, check out the description because we're going to put links to some of those things and obviously to your website. But I mean, you very much feel like you're part of the journey. You see the different things, and so for couples, I think that's very reassuring because if they are going to trust you, they want to see, oh, progress is being made. Oh, wow, look at this, that, all of these different things are coming to life, and that's. As they get closer to their wedding date and you get closer to the finish line of the project being complete, everything that you accomplish is a win for them, right? And so they're so excited. I love that you've done that.
Well, and I think it's open communication too. I'm communicating with you hey, this is where we're at this week. And instead of you wondering oh, I wonder if they've done this week, right? It keeps you updated and excited, right? And I do agree with you. I think people love a good renovation story, right? So, and that was the main thing. We gravitated towards YouTube and Instagram because it's why not get to know our story? Why not get to know us as business owners who you're going to engage with for possibly up to a year while you plan your wedding? So we felt like it was a great opportunity for us to be on YouTube and share this whole experience with everybody.
Totally. Danielle, for someone who's listening to this right now who says, oh gosh, that's so great for her. She seems really friendly, outgoing, but I'm super scared. I'm nervous on camera. I don't know. I don't want to think, maybe that's not for me. YouTube and Instagram and things like that don't really come naturally to me. Do you have any tips, any guidance, anything to kind of help spark people to like maybe get through some of that nervousness?
I do. You know what's crazy is when you're a teacher, you learn to teach in front of, I taught in middle school. Okay. So you have to, your most critical audience is middle school.
Brutal audience.
A brutal audience. So you get more comfortable with that. But at the end of the day, you have to realize the people watching your videos are the ones who truly care about your content, right? And the ones who are not, you can make a fool of yourself if you feel like you're making a fool of yourself, and it's not going to matter. You just have to get comfortable with expressing yourself and saying, you know what, I'm doing this for me. It's a smart business move. It's going to help me engage with my clients. And I really, really need to put myself out there because I'm going to tell you, making connections with your future clients and your current clients is huge, right? So to me, that what really drove me in my mindset. Do I like to be in front of the camera? No. I've never been one that's like, ooh, put the spotlight on me, right? But in this industry, in order to stand out from other venues, you kind of have to, right? In that competitor market. And I feel like making that connection and just finding that confidence and saying, hey, I can do this because the people who care about my content are going to watch it.
Yeah, it's so true. And the other thing that I think is kind of a secondary benefit to this is you've created these videos now. You're going to look back in 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and there's going to be like video, audio evidence of the process that you went through. And couples in 6 years are going to like maybe look at that and be like, oh my gosh, this is the process that, you know, everyone, the whole team went through. And Danielle and her husband, and and this is everything that happened. And they're going to feel like bought in and have the history of that. You know, just the same way that you put those pictures of the horses and everything you're building the history and it's accessible now to people. So I absolutely love that. Talk to me about, so you said you didn't spend the money on renderings, and you really found people that like believed in the vision and things like that. Coming up to this last 6-8 weeks, how many weddings do you have booked either for this upcoming year or 2024?
Okay, currently we have 8 weddings booked and we have a few Christmas parties booked. So we are getting out there, and I anticipate after we have our open house and we're fully renovated, I'm hoping that we do have at least, you know, I would say 75% of our books like weekends, hopefully by the end of 2023, because we do have some dates open. And I know we're going to have those brides that are still looking or that have been creeping on us for, you know, a couple of months and are like, I just want to wait till I can see the finished product, which I totally respect. It is so scary to commit to something that's not, you know, completely finished. So I do anticipate that we are going to have, you know, a very good increase at the end of the year and definitely into 2024 as well.
That's huge. That's a really strong start. You've got 8 weddings booked before you even open your doors.
And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that because my philosophy is to, like, my husband and I and my mother-in-law were actually discussing this. Like, we want to be able to have the personalized bride. Like, we want to be able to make those connections with you to where if we book so many weddings at the beginning of our, you know, opening, that's not going to give you what you need, right? Like right off the start. So we want to be able to there to support you, to be able to provide you everything that you need and to guide you. And it's a learning process to it for us too. And we want to grow with our clients. And you know, as we grow smaller, and then we increase to, you know, higher volumes and having weddings, we're going to be more experienced with that. And we like the idea of starting with the 8 and then moving up a little bit faster. Beautiful,
beautiful. Where in your ideal scenario right now, and I obviously am talking to you at the beginning, but this is partially strategic because I would love to talk to you in a year or two, right? And say like, hey, where are you at now? Talk to me about how many events you'd like to do a year as you think about the venue, just the capacity, maybe your own personal interests of how many events you want to do per year.
Oh, I mean, I would love, you know, by next year to be booked out every weekend. You know, that would be the ideal dream. Like, I would love that. You know, I think we would be seasoned. We would be well, you know, diverse in our skills. And I think that would be the ideal that we could handle that. I really, truly didn't think with, you know, my mother-in-law, she has been in the realtor business and she's actually owned a gift shop and a small tea room and everything. So her hospitality her skills that she brings to the table really helps. And then, I was a bartender in college, for about 7 years. So I mean, in college and, throughout 18 to, those life skills. So our hospitality skills are very strong. So I know that as our venue grows and as we grow, we're going to be able to handle those things because, we are good with working with people. We are professional. And like I said, just those previous past skills are going to really help us later on too. So I am not scared of it. I say, bring it on. I mean, like I said, I was a coach for years and I'm very adaptable and I'm ready for it. So I think really next year we're going to be seasoned and I hope we book out. That'd be amazing.
I love that. And booking out, just so I have an idea of that, booking out is that 52 weddings a year?
Oh, I'd be happy with 52. Yeah. 52 weddings and up would be great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
I would love that.
I've got 2 questions for you and then we'll wrap up today and we'll have to come back because I'm very excited for you. I want to know, is there anyone along this journey? Was there anyone along this journey who came alongside you, maybe remotely, maybe even without their knowledge, right? Someone in the industry, a mentor, a coach, a YouTube channel, a podcast, like a business coach, anybody who kind of helped inspire you? And I'm asking because I would love if it was us, but I'm also asking, for the other resources out there that, if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, gosh, like, I don't know where to turn. I don't know where to look. Like, what helped inspire you along your journey, if there was something?
So we do listen to your podcast. Like I said, our friend Emily Mays at Forever 5 actually was on the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know like this was around. Me and my husband love podcasts, and we started listening to it. And she's been a great resource whenever I've needed help or support. I've called her and said, hey girl, like how did you do this? How did you do that? And listening to everybody on your show has been super informative because everybody's going through it. And like I said, I'm a huge collaborator. I want to share any knowledge that I have. And I want to find people who are like-minded like me, because here's the thing, granted, at the end of the day, we're competitors, but like you may have something special that my venue that can't offer, but I can refer you out at the end of the day. Right. And that's a huge connection. But like, if I don't know how to run something and you've done it at your venue before, I would love to collaborate with you because you're going to have that experience and knowledge. And just like some of your guests that you've had on your show have shared, like, this is what worked for us and this is what not worked for us. And we've had to transition to this, or we've had to modify our bar because of this, right? Like, so I really think social media is powerful. Finding networking groups, like we're a part of the bridal networking group in Montgomery County, even though we're in Polk County, and we've been able to meet with different vendors and different venues, and I've been able to talk to different venue owners, and they're like, oh my God, this is what you need to do, or this is what helped me when I first started. Like, just really that open engagement conversation that has been super beneficial. Don't be scared to ask people questions, right? Like because like I said, it's the old educator in me. There's never a stupid question, right? Because you guarantee that venue owner, that vendor, whoever has also been stuck in that rut and didn't know who to go to for support, right? And like I said, your podcast has provided that. And even some of my local partnerships within our industry have been very grateful and so kind to me to be able to help me in a time of need when I needed it.
That's so huge. That's so important. The networking. I'm hearing that kind of in your story come up again and again and again. And it's great. Gigi, is her name actually Gigi, or is that what you?
It's Terry, but we call her Gigi.
I love it. That's important to have that person. And if you're not that person, develop a relationship with that person who is super outgoing, friendly, connected, knows everyone. But like you said, being involved in those networking groups, being involved in the community really gives you that kind of that touch point. So that's huge. I want to wrap up really quick. You mentioned the bar a couple of times. You mentioned also kind of leaving the venue open for different vendors. Are you choosing to do the bar in-house?
Yes, we are. We do have our TABC license. So whenever you rent our venue, you do just get the venue rental itself, which includes tables and chairs, and you do get the option of black or white linens, and you do get that rental for 14 hours. So,
wow.
Because not everybody wants alcohol at their wedding, right? So, but we decided that it would be a great investment for us to go ahead and get our TABC license and invest in that. And so far, we think it's going to be a really good thing for us. And our brides have been okay with our bar pricing and packaging. I know as we get into it, we're going to have to adjust, a few things as we learn, but yes, we did decide to go ahead and do that. And I feel like it's going to be a great move for us.
Can you take me through a little bit of what it was like to get that license? I know there's some bonds. I know there's some different things you got to do. Can you kind of walk us through the process a little bit?
So it's kind of different in Polk County. So everybody else is kind of like, we're not necessarily in a dry county, but we're in some areas of the city limits are. So like we have to be treated kind of like a restaurant style for us. So we have to keep like receipts of everything being sold, like food wise. We have to make sure there's food being served as long as alcohol, all those general rules that are there. But we have to keep, all that documentation that that stuff will be there in Polk County for their guidelines. Unlike other, like Montgomery County might be different, or another county close to us may not be. But it was a stressful process. I'm not gonna lie, getting it, just because you're making a big investment, by putting up bonds and then paying for the license itself. And, it's a state thing, right? So it kind of stresses you out. Like, am I doing the protocol, correctly? Or is the taxes right? Because, at the end of the day, you're going to be paying a ton of taxes because it just is, right? So that's the thing that you have to look at whenever you're breaking all that down. Like, how am I going to keep inventory? How am I going to do these things and make sure it's successful to where I don't get audited at the end of the day and it runs smoothly for everybody? So there's a lot of stress and a lot of detailed paperwork and organization that goes with it. Getting the license itself really wasn't that hard. Just putting up the bond, you have to get those bonds for 2 years. And then like after 2 years, if you don't have any incidents, then you don't have to pay bonds anymore. I think I'm correct. I may be wrong, but something along the lines of that. But for the most part, it wasn't hard to get the license, but a lot of the organization pieces and the inventory stuff is a little confusing. And like I said, the taxes, but for the most part, get a good CPA that can help break everything down for you and teach you how to do your inventory, like using Square and then, QuickBooks, and making sure that you have all your taxes because it'll run all your quarterly, and making sure you're paying to the comptroller on time. Like I have like a reminder on my phone that tells me every month I got to put in my, taxes to make sure that, everything goes in. So there's just a lot of that tedious organization that comes along with it.
Could you share how much it costs to get that alcohol license there with the TABC?
So we got our beer and wine and our mixed beverage. So we have all of it. So I would say about the whole process with bonded insurance was probably about $12,000.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And is that something, so bonded insurance, was that, you said you pay it for 2 years or something like that, and then you maybe don't have to pay it. Are there ongoing expenses that are involved in carrying the license?
I do believe, I'm not there yet, so I don't have the experience yet, but I do believe that you have to, whenever you have to renew your license, you do have to pay that. And of course the taxes, right? I mean, I was talking to my CPA the other day and she's like, get ready to pay a buco in taxes, and I was like, I'm ready for it. Cause other venues I've talked to, the investment is worth it. Sometimes they're making more money on alcohol sales than they are on the venue rental itself. So, and we're very lucky that we're going to have an in-house trained staff that's TABC licensed and food handler certified. We have a family member who is going to, make a staffing company that's going to be able to provide our bartenders. So we know we have good staff that we can trust that aren't going to overserve and put us in those liability situations. So we're very grateful for that as well.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Danielle, thank you so much for sharing and just being such an open book about all these different things. I mean, this is really exciting. I'm excited for you guys. I think people listening to this are going to be very excited for you as well. And, if they want to connect with you, maybe ask more questions about this process that you've been through, where should they reach out to you?
They can email me at Danielle@thevaultvenuetx.com. You can find me on social media at the_vault_venue on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. I am more than happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Like I said, I am a helper. I'm an old educator. And like I said, I love getting advice from other people and working and collaborating with everyone, because I feel like that contributes to a lot of successful stories.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a blast getting to know you a little bit more. I want to have you back on.
Yes.
And let's do kind of that year anniversary of opening. So let's schedule, what is this, May 20th of 2024. And we got to have you back on and kind of hear how year one was and your plans for expansion. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I can't wait for our old 1920s bank building to come to life. Like I said, we're going to be an Art Deco, kind of industrial, all exposed kind of brick vibe versus, your traditional farmhouse barn look. So I can't wait to share the final product with everybody. And I am so happy to come back in a year and share everything.
Amazing. Well, we'll have you back on. We'll put all the links to your venue and just everything that you're doing in the show notes. And yeah, we'll see everyone in the next episode.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for having me.